What is up, everybody? RandomRandomMan here, bringing you my interview with the star of the Lego Movie 2, the second part, Emmett. Glad to be here, Emmett. Thanks, RRM. Glad to be here too myself. Hey, everything is awesome, am I right? Oh, wait, no, don't start singing that song now. Oh, right. You want me to sing a different song from this franchise? This song's gonna get stuck inside ya. This song's gonna get stuck inside ya. This song's gonna get stuck inside. Get me back in human form right now. What is up, everybody? Random Man here, bringing you my review for the Lego Movie 2, the second part. Taking place 5 years after the events of the first film, where everything was awesome, the plot this time around basically follows Emmett, voiced by Chris Pratt, and his friends as they and the rest of the citizens of Bricksburg are facing a huge new threat. Lego Duplo invaders from outer space, wrecking everything faster than they can rebuild, and it is up to Emmett and the gang to stop them. Going into this movie, I was very much looking forward to seeing it. Now, if you've been a long time, and I mean long time viewer of my channel, then you would know that before I reviewed movies, I reviewed Lego sets. Yes, this channel was dedicated to all things Lego before I got more and more into film. I even had an attempt of doing stop motion animation. It's a lot harder than it looks. I mean, hell, look at the stand I'm using to hold up my phone for when I make videos. It's made out of Legos. So the bottom line here is that I've been a massive Lego enthusiast since I was 10 years old. That was when I first started collecting them. When the advent of an animated movie surrounding this brand of toys came about with the Lego Movie 5 years ago, has it already been that long? I'm starting to feel old, but anyway, when this idea came into existence, like many, I scoffed at it, seeing how it appeared to be, or at least to me, like a feature-length toy commercial, and it ended up being one of the most surprising movies I've ever seen. It was amazingly animated, really funny, and above all, it had heart, deep themes, and it really got into the core of what it is like to play with Legos and what the point of the toy is in sharing and caring with it. For all of the overwhelming success that the Lego Movie had, not only were more of the toys sold, but 2 spin-off movies came afterward in the form of the Lego Batman movie, which I really enjoyed, and the Lego Ninjago movie. Though I don't own that film, I also enjoyed that movie. It's the weakest of the Lego movies that we have gotten thus far, with the first Lego movie still being my absolute favorite, one of my favorite animated movies of the decade, period. I'm still mad this didn't get nominated for the Best Animated Feature Oscar. But anyway, with this franchise, I was itching to see a proper sequel to the first Lego movie come about, and now we have it. Starting out with the cast and their vocal performances, we have a lot of players returning from the first film, such as Chris Pratt as Emmett Brakowski, the construction worker who became the Special in the first Lego movie, and like how he did in the first film, Pratt brings a lot of energy to this character. He's also a bit naive at times, but he is still the same lovable minifigure that we rooted for in the first film. Pratt also voices a new character to the sequel, Rex Dangervest, who is a galaxy-defending archaeologist, cowboy, and raptor trainer. I had to get all of those titles correct. He is basically a personification of the real-life Chris Pratt for all of the various movie roles he's had in the past several years, and him being put side by side with Emmett and them working together to really stop all these Lego Duplo invaders. It was interesting to see their camaraderie once these two first meet on screen. We also have Elizabeth Banks as Lucy, aka Wildstyle. She is great as she was in the first film. She gets quite a bit more to do actually as well. Also returning is Will Arnett as Bruce Wayne / Batman from not only the first Lego movie, but also the Lego Batman movie, where, yeah, he was all over the place and just shows off how awesome he is because he's Batman. He's always a delight to hear in these films. Tiffany Haddish plays a new character here, and her name is Queen
Wanabe. I wanted to get that name right as well. She is a shape-shifting alien, and I love the way she was animated, as she is made out of bricks. And I'll get more into that when I talk about the animation. And I personally love Tiffany Haddish. I think she is a funny individual, and here she brings a lot of that same comedy throughout. There's also another new player here, Stephanie Beatrice as General Sweet Mayhem, an intergalactic mini doll who has a bit of a hand in getting the plot going and the way that it does progress, and all of these things have to be solved. And I thought that her time on screen, or more like us hearing her vocal talents, was fine. I also think the other supporting players that returned from the first film are fine, such as Charlie Day as Benny, Alison Brie as Princess Unikitty, Nick Offerman as Metalbeard, and even Will Ferrell as President Business / Lord Business, who has a lot less to do this time around. But really, the focus here in this movie is mainly on Emmett, Rex Dangervest, Lucy, and Queen Whatever Wanabe. So while everyone here mostly does a good job, I think the three standouts of the vocal cast are Chris Pratt, Elizabeth Banks, and Tiffany Haddish. The writing in this film, specifically the screenplay, was done by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who wrote, produced, and directed the first Lego Movie film. They're also known for being the men behind 21 and 22 Jump Street, two of the funniest movies I've seen all decade. And they were also involved with last year's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which was my favorite animated film of 2018. Now, Phil Lord and Chris Miller did not return to direct this entry, but they did return to produce and write the screenplay, as I've just mentioned. And how this movie begins really does feel like how the first Lego movie was, as it starts out directly as the first Lego movie is ending, with the so-called twist of the first film that occurred 3/4 of the way through, tying in to those final moments, and by extension, the beginning of this Lego movie too, as we see the Lego Duplo toys invading Bricksburg, and then the film fast forwards 5 years later, kind of like how it's been 5 years since the first Lego film. I like that touch there. And we see that Bricksburg has gone to basically ruins, a post-apocalyptic Mad Max type of world, and everything is not so awesome. But dear old Emmett still has his same happy-go-lucky and positive attitude despite what has since happened after the first Lego movie. And what this movie does very much follows in a similar formula to the very first Lego Movie film, in terms of how it does begin kind of like how the first one began, with everything is awesome playing in the background, but also in just having the same kind of approach to the characters. And what eventually does set off the plot does kind of feel like it is in a similar vein to what the first movie did in going on this really extravagant comedic adventure. Except this time, we follow two concurrent plot lines, one involving Emmett and eventually Rex Dangervest trying to save Lucy and the rest of his friends after they are kidnapped by these said Duplo toys, and they have wreaked havoc on Bricksburg, now called Apocalypseburg, after 5 years, but now Lucy and the rest of Emmett's friends are gone, and they eventually do encounter Tiffany Haddish's character and just all the rest of this different world that we haven't seen before in these Lego films. And that does go into how extravagant this movie looks with its animation. And I think that this looks better than the first Lego movie, not just with the animation, but also how the actual sets are designed, all the locations. There's a lot of creativity brimming here. The contrast between Apocalypseburg and the world that Haddish's Whatever Wanabe lives in looks so striking, with all of the colors, the way the animation is done. Again, it's emulating the brick film style of filmmaking that is known here on YouTube, which that's what I loved a lot about the previous Lego films, and that continues to exist in this latest Lego movie. And then the way the movie is edited and directed with such a fast pace. Like I said, Lord and Miller didn't direct this film. It is directed by Mike Mitchell, who is previously known in live action to have directed Sky High, a really underrated superhero film for kids and families, and he also directed the live action sequences in the SpongeBob movie Sponge Out of Water from 4 years ago. And I thought Mitchell helmed this thing with the same amount of care as the original, not just with the themes, which I'll mention in a bit, but also just the feel and the overall excitement that is to be had with these Lego movies, aside from them also promoting a lot of different characters and themes that Lego has created over the years, which for me, as a fan of Lego for a very long time, it really gave me a big kick to see all of these other popular characters and even some cameos I did not expect showing up in there. Music has a big part in this film as well, like in the first movie, as Mark Mothersbaugh has crafted another original score that is very upbeat and catchy, and like Everything Is Awesome, there is another annoyingly catchy song introduced here that is gonna get inside your head, just like the lyrics have stated. This song's gonna get stuck inside you. Oh man, no. If I start singing that now, it's gonna distract me for the rest of this review. But yeah, the music here I think is exemplary. Running time wise, I think this movie all ran well at about an hour and 45 minutes. With the pacing, I do have to mention that I did feel it lull a little bit within the middle section. While I was never bored, I did feel it kind of stretch on, and it was mainly like that in my opinion for it's still following that structure that the first film established, though there was enough differences in there that made it feel like it stood on its own and felt like a proper sequel to the first Lego movie. And speaking of all that, the themes here, which are extended from the first Lego movie film, having to do with that twist that occurred about 3/4 of the way through the movie. And by the way, if you haven't seen the first Lego movie by now, what are you doing? But out of courtesy, I will not spoil what was the big thing that really put me over the edge in loving the film. But what I will say about the huge theme / big message that this movie pushes in its second half does connect very well to the first film. It is very similar in its execution and getting to the core of what it is like to play with Legos in the first place, and how fans of Lego, both young and old, are meant to really experience it with others. It also addresses the huge association of what it is like to step on a Lego brick in real life. Specifically, if you've ever stepped on one of those 2x4 plates, that is one of the biggest pains you'll ever experience in your life. That connects to the rest of the humor that this movie has, as I think it is hysterical. Me and the rest of my audience were laughing it up in a bunch of moments. And speaking of the humor of this movie too, I can see some people taking issue with how the film is more relegated to kids in how the comedy works, also how cutesy a lot of the designs look, but really Legos are meant to be for all ages anyway, and it personally didn't bother me that much that the humor and comedy skewed more towards smaller kids, like how the stars and hearts are designed from the group of Lego Duplo invaders. Like, I thought that was actually kind of charming. When it comes to this movie overall, I think that it is a solid and worthy sequel to the first Lego film. In terms of where I think this movie ranks with the rest of the Lego movies that we have gotten thus far, the Lego movie, the very first one, is still my favorite of the bunch, as it mainly relied on the element of surprise. I do prefer the Lego movie 2 over the Lego Ninjago movie, and I think it's about as on par with the Lego Batman movie. I think I would have to watch the Lego movie 2 again to see if I like it more than the Lego Batman movie, but really all four of these movies I do enjoy, and I could see the Lego movie 2 specifically being some people's favorites over even the first one because of where the themes do go in having been more expanded upon by the end, and it bringing it home to be such a satisfying experience. I mean, I have friends in real life who prefer Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 over the first Guardians of the Galaxy. Me, I still prefer the first Guardians film over Volume 2, but I really enjoyed both of them either way. But yeah, if you're a fan of the Lego movies thus far, or just a fan of Legos in general, you're gonna get a kick out of watching the Lego Movie 2, the second part. There's a lot of enthusiasm to be had with watching this movie. I definitely recommend it. My final verdict for the Lego Movie 2, the second part, is 4 out of 5 stars. Thank you all, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment on what you thought of the Lego Movie 2, the second part. Social media links in the description. Subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll catch you on the next movie review.